I was standing in my childhood bedroom when I heard my sister tell the real estate agent that she owned the entire property. My hands froze on the box I was packing. The walls were bare, my posters already rolled up and taped. Sunlight came through the window the same way it had for 20 years. But everything felt different now. Mom had been gone for 3 months. The funeral was quiet. The grief was loud. And now my sister Victoria was rewriting history to a stranger in our living room. Her voice confident and clear like she believed every word. I pressed my ear against the door. The agent asked about square footage. Victoria laughed that practice laugh she used when she wanted to sound successful. She said the house had been hers for years, that she had been managing everything while I drifted around with no real career. My stomach turned. I wanted to storm downstairs and correct her, but something stopped me. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the need to know exactly how far she would go. So I stayed quiet and listened to my sister erase me from our family home. Victoria had always been the favorite. That was not bitterness talking. It was just fact. She was 3 years older, prettier in the way magazines define it, charming in the way that makes people trust you instantly. Our parents adored her. When she brought home boyfriends, Dad would grill steaks. When I brought home friends, Mom would ask us to keep the noise down. Victoria got the bigger bedroom. She got the car when she turned 16. I got the lecture about responsibility and earning things on my own. Mom used to say that Victoria had ambition. She meant it as a compliment. What she did not say out loud was that I apparently did not. But I did. I just showed it differently. I did not need applause. I did not need credit. I worked quietly. I saved carefully. I built my life without asking anyone for permission or help. And maybe that was my mistake. Maybe silence gets mistaken for absence. Maybe working in the background makes people assume you are not working at all. Standing in that bedroom, listening to Victoria claim sole ownership, I realized she had been counting on my quiet nature all along. Our mother left the house to both of us. The will was clear. Equal ownership. 50-50. The lawyer read it out loud in his office with the blinds half closed and the air conditioner humming. Victoria smiled at me across the table like we were a team. She reached over and squeezed my hand. She said we would figure it out together. I believed her. That was 6 weeks ago. Since then, she had been figuring it out alone. She started making decisions without asking me. Small things at first. She hired a lawn service. She changed the locks and gave me a new key 2 days later, like it was no big deal. She scheduled a pest inspection and did not tell me until the truck was already in the driveway. When I asked why she had not mentioned it, she said she was just trying to keep things running smoothly. She said I was busy with work and she did not want to bother me. Her tone was sweet, but her eyes were sharp. I let it slide because I was still grieving and I did not have the energy to fight. Downstairs, the agent was asking about renovation plans. Victoria described an extension she wanted to build, a sunroom on the east side, a deck wrapping around the back. She talked about knocking down the fence between our property and the empty lot next door to create more yard space. She said it casually, like the lot was already hers. The agent asked if she owned that land too. Victoria paused. Then she said not yet, but she was working on it. My heart started beating faster. I knew that lot. Everyone in the neighborhood knew it. It had been empty for as long as I could remember. Overgrown grass. A rusted for sale sign that nobody ever called about. It was a weird shape, long and narrow, pressed right up against our property line. Most developers did not want it because it was too small to build anything valuable. But Victoria was not thinking like a developer. She was thinking like someone who wanted to expand without sharing. I pulled out my phone and searched for the property listing. It was still for sale. The price was lower than I expected. Affordable, even. That night, Victoria made pasta for dinner. She set 2 places at the kitchen table, like we were roommates instead of co-owners. She poured wine and asked about my day. I told her it was fine. She talked about work, about a promotion she might get, about a vacation she was planning. She did not mention the real estate agent. She did not mention the expansion plans. She did not mention the lot next door. I watched her twirl spaghetti on her fork and smile at me like we were close, like we shared things. And I realized something cold and clear. She was not going to tell me. She was going to buy that lot, expand the property, increase the value, and then find a way to push me out. Maybe she would offer to buy my half for less than it was worth. Maybe she would make living here so uncomfortable that I would leave on my own. Either way, she was planning a future where I did not exist. I finished my wine and thanked her for dinner. She hugged me good night, and I went upstairs and called the number on the listing. The next morning, I met the seller at a coffee shop near the highway. His name was Mr. Patterson. He was older, maybe 70, with tired eyes and hands that shook slightly when he lifted his cup. He told me he had inherited the lot from his brother 5 years ago and had been trying to sell it ever since. Nobody wanted it. Too narrow. Bad soil. No road access except through an easement that annoyed the neighbors. I asked how much he wanted. He named a price. I did not negotiate. I said I would take it. He blinked at me like he thought I was joking. I opened my banking app and showed him my account balance. I had been saving for years. Every paycheck, every bonus, every birthday check from relatives went into that account. I was planning to buy my own place eventually, something small and mine. But this was better. This was strategic. Mr. Patterson smiled for the first time. He said he would have his lawyer draw up the paperwork. I shook his hand and felt something settle in my chest. Not anger. Clarity. The sale went through in 2 weeks. I paid cash. No mortgage, no delays, no complications. The deed arrived in the mail on a Tuesday. I opened the envelope in my car outside the post office and stared at my name printed in clean black ink. Owner. I sat there for a long time, holding that paper, feeling the weight of what I had done. Victoria did not know yet. She was still making her plans, still talking to contractors, still measuring the backyard for her sunroom. I saw the sketches on the kitchen counter one morning, detailed drawings with notes in her handwriting. Knock down fence here. Extend patio here. She had already started spending money in her mind. She had already decorated a space that did not belong to her. I folded the deed carefully and put it in my desk drawer. I did not tell her. Not yet. I wanted to see how far she would go before reality caught up. A week later, Victoria came home excited. She dropped her purse on the counter and poured herself a glass of water. She said she had great news. She had found a buyer interested in the lot next door, a developer who wanted to flip it. She said if we moved fast, we could buy it together, split the cost, and use it to increase our property value. She said we. She said together. But I had heard her on the phone 2 days earlier, talking to that same developer. I heard her say that she was the sole owner. I heard her laugh and say her sister would not be a problem. She had practiced this conversation. She had prepared this lie, and now she was performing it for me with a straight face and a smile. I asked her how much the lot cost. She named a price that was triple what I had paid. I asked where she got that number. She said the developer told her. I nodded slowly. I said it sounded expensive. She waved her hand and said it was an investment. She said we could afford it if we both contributed. Then she looked at me carefully and said unless I did not have the money. I told her I needed time to think about it. She said sure, but we should not wait too long. The developer was eager. She did not want to lose the opportunity. I went upstairs and closed my door. I sat on my bed and stared at the ceiling. My sister was trying to scam me. Not in a dramatic movie way. In a quiet, calculated way that would look reasonable to anyone who did not know the truth. She would convince me to overpay for a property she thought she could buy cheap. Then she would pocket the difference or use my money to fund her expansion while giving me nothing in return. I could confront her. I could show her the deed and watch her face change. But that would end it too quickly. She would make excuses. She would cry and say it was a misunderstanding. She would find another way to win. So I decided to wait. I decided to let her think She was in control. I decided to let her build her plans higher and higher so the fall would be harder. I texted her that night. I said I was in. I said I could contribute my half. Victoria moved fast after that. She scheduled meetings with contractors. She brought home paint samples and tile options. She talked about the sunroom like it was already built. She showed me pictures on her phone of furniture she wanted to buy. Wicker chairs, a glass table, plants in ceramic pots. She was decorating a dream that required land she did not own. I played along. I asked questions. I pretended to care about grout colors and window sizes. I even suggested a few ideas that made her face light up. She hugged me and said she was glad we were doing this together. She said Mom would be proud. That part hurt more than I expected. Our mother had been gone for 4 months, and Victoria was using her memory to manipulate me. That was when I stopped feeling guilty about what I was planning. The contractor came the following week. Victoria walked him around the yard, pointing at the fence, describing her vision. He took notes and nodded. He said it was doable. Then he asked about permits and property lines. Victoria assured him it was all handled. He asked if she had a survey. She said she would get one. He left his card and said to call when she was ready. I waited until Victoria scheduled the survey. She hired a company without telling me, but I saw the confirmation email on the kitchen counter. She had printed it out, highlighted the date, and left it next to her coffee mug. The survey was scheduled for Friday at 9 in the morning. I made sure I would be there. Friday came. The surveyor arrived in a white truck with equipment in the back. Victoria greeted him with her brightest smile. She offered him coffee. She walked him to the backyard and showed him where she wanted the measurements taken. He set up his tools and started working. I watched from the kitchen window, my hands wrapped around a mug that had gone cold. 20 minutes later, the surveyor called Victoria over. He pointed at his clipboard. He pointed at the fence. He pointed at the lot next door. Victoria's smile faded. She shook her head. She said something I could not hear. The surveyor shook his head back. He showed her the property line on his map. Her face went pale. She came inside 10 minutes later. The surveyor was packing up his truck. Victoria stood in the kitchen doorway, staring at nothing. I asked her what was wrong. She did not answer right away. Then she said the lot next door was already sold. She said someone bought it 2 weeks ago. She said the surveyor told her. I asked who bought it. She said she did not know. The surveyor did not have that information. She pulled out her phone and started calling the developer. No answer. She left a voicemail, her voice tight and controlled. She paced the kitchen, her heels clicking against the tile. She said this did not make sense. She said the developer promised her first option. She said someone must have made a mistake. I sipped my cold coffee and said maybe it was not meant to be. She shot me a look that could have cut glass. She said it was definitely meant to be. She just needed to figure out who bought the lot and convince them to sell. I nodded and said nothing. I went upstairs and waited. Victoria spent the weekend making calls. I heard her through the walls, her voice rising and falling, frustrated and then sweet, demanding and then pleading. She called the county office. She called real estate agents. She called the developer again and again until he finally answered. I heard her yell. Then I heard her cry. Then I heard silence. Monday morning, she came downstairs with red eyes and a tight mouth. She poured coffee and sat across from me. She said she found out who bought the lot. She said it was a private sale. Cash buyer. No public record of the name yet, but it would be filed soon. She said whoever it was clearly knew what they were doing. She said it was suspicious. She said someone must have been watching the property. I asked her why it mattered so much. She stared at me like I had asked why breathing mattered. She said the expansion was important. She said it was the only way to make the house valuable enough to justify keeping it. Then she said something that made my blood turn cold. She said if we could not expand, we should sell. She said we could split the money and move on. She said it so casually, like our childhood home was just an asset to liquidate. I told her I did not want to sell. She sighed. She said I was being emotional. She said holding on to the house for sentimental reasons was not smart. She said Mom would want us to make practical decisions. I bit my tongue. I wanted to scream that Mom left the house to both of us because she wanted us to share it, not because she wanted Victoria to sell it for profit. But I stayed calm. I said I needed more time. She said fine, but we should think seriously about our options. That afternoon, the county filing went through. The new deed was public record. I knew because I had been checking every hour. I printed a copy and put it in my folder with the other documents. Then I went downstairs and found Victoria on her laptop, scrolling through real estate listings. She was already looking at condos, already planning her exit, already spending money she did not have yet. I sat down next to her. I said I wanted to talk. She closed her laptop and smiled that patient smile people use when they think you are about to be difficult. I said I had been thinking about the house. She nodded. I said I wanted to stay. Her smile tightened. I said I was willing to buy her out. Her eyebrows lifted. I said I could offer her a fair price for her half. She laughed. She said I could not afford that. I asked her how she knew. She stopped laughing. Victoria named a price. It was high, too high, more than her half was worth by any reasonable measure. I asked her how she calculated that number. She said it was based on potential value, the value the house would have if we could expand it. I pointed out that we could not expand it. She said that was temporary. Someone would sell that lot eventually. I asked what if they did not. She did not have an answer. I told her I would think about her offer. She said I should decide soon because she had other options. I asked what options. She said she could find an investor, someone who would buy my half and let her manage the property. I asked if she already had someone in mind. She smiled and said maybe. I nodded and went back upstairs. She was bluffing. She had to be. Nobody would invest in a property with a co-owner who did not want to sell. But I could not be sure. Victoria was good at convincing people. That night I could not sleep. I kept thinking about losing the house, about Victoria forcing me out, about watching strangers move into my childhood bedroom. I got up at 2 a.m. and sat at my desk. I pulled out the deed to the lot. I stared at my name. Owner. I had the power here. I just needed to use it. The next morning I called a lawyer. Not the family lawyer who handled Mom's estate. A different one. Someone Victoria did not know. I explained the situation. The house. The co-ownership. The lot next door. The lawyer listened without interrupting. When I finished, she asked what I wanted to accomplish. I said I wanted to protect my half of the house. I wanted to make sure Victoria could not force me out. She said that was doable. Then she said I had leverage I was not using. I asked what she meant. She said the lot next door gave me control over the property's future value. If Victoria wanted to expand, she needed my cooperation. If I refused, her plans died. I had not thought about it that way. I had bought the lot to block her. I had not considered using it to negotiate. The lawyer said I should make Victoria an offer, a real one. I could sell her access to the lot in exchange for sole ownership of the house. Or I could offer to buy her out at actual market value, not the inflated price she was demanding. Either way, I would come out ahead. I thanked her and ended the call. Then I sat there thinking about what kind of person I wanted to be. Someone who fought back quietly or someone who fought back loud. I chose quiet. I always did. I wrote Victoria an email. I said I had thought about her offer and I had a counterproposal. I said I would buy her half of the house at fair market value based on a professional appraisal. No inflation. No potential value. Just facts. I said if she agreed, we could close quickly and move on. I said if she did not agree, I was prepared to stay in the house indefinitely as a co-owner. I attached a copy of a recent appraisal I had ordered. The number was reasonable. Fair. Lower than what she wanted, but higher than what she deserved considering She had tried to cheat me. I hit send and waited. She read it within 5 minutes. I heard her door open. I heard her footsteps in the hallway. She knocked on my door. I told her to come in. She stood in the doorway holding her phone, her face unreadable. She asked where I got the money for this. I said I had been saving. She asked how long. I said years. She blinked. Then she asked about the lot. She asked if I knew who bought it. I met her eyes and said yes. I said I bought it. The silence that followed was so thick I could feel it pressing against my skin. Victoria's face went through several expressions in the span of 5 seconds. Confusion, disbelief, anger, then something colder. She asked why. I said because I could. She said that was not an answer. I said it was the only answer she was getting. She asked what I planned to do with it. I said that depended on her. She stepped into the room. She said I was being childish. She said I was sabotaging her plans out of spite. I said her plans required land she did not own and a sister she tried to erase. She flinched. I said I heard her talking to the real estate agent. I said I heard her claim sole ownership. I said I knew about the developer and the fake price and the plan to push me out. She opened her mouth. Then she closed it. Then she left. I heard her on the phone an hour later, yelling at someone. Probably the developer. Probably the lawyer. Probably anyone who would listen. I did not care. I had made my move. The rest was up to her. 2 days later, Victoria accepted my offer. Not gracefully. She sent a 1-sentence email. Fine. We scheduled the closing for the following week. The lawyer handled everything. Victoria barely looked at me during the signing. She took her check, signed the papers, and walked out without saying goodbye. I watched her car pull away from the lawyer's office and felt nothing. No relief. No victory. Just quiet. The house was mine now. Fully. Legally. I walked through the rooms that night, touching the walls, sitting in the chairs, standing in the kitchen where Mom used to make pancakes on Sunday mornings. It felt different. Heavier. Like ownership was not the same as belonging. I thought about Victoria. About where she went. About whether she hated me. Probably. I thought about whether I cared. I was not sure. I kept the lot next door. I did not build anything on it. I just let it sit there, overgrown and quiet, a reminder of what happens when someone underestimates you. Months passed. I hired someone to mow the lot once a month, so it did not look abandoned. Neighbors asked what I planned to do with it. I said I was thinking. They nodded and stopped asking. Victoria moved into a condo downtown. I saw her post pictures online. White furniture, big windows, captions about new beginnings. She never mentioned me. She never mentioned the house. It was like I had been erased from her story the same way she tried to erase me from the property. I did not reach out. Neither did she. Our aunt called once and asked what happened. I said we decided it was better to separate our finances. She said that was probably smart. She did not push. Nobody did. People assume siblings drift apart. They do not ask why. I started working on the house. Small projects at first. I painted the living room. I replaced the old curtains. I fixed the squeaky step on the stairs. Every change felt like I was making it mine. Not ours. Mine. One Saturday, I was pulling weeds in the front yard when a car slowed down in front of the house. I looked up. It was Victoria. She did not get out. She just sat there, engine running, staring at the house through the windshield. I stood up slowly, dirt on my knees, gloves in my hand. We looked at each other through glass and distance. She did not wave. Neither did I. Then she drove away. I went back to the weeds. My hands were shaking. I did not know if it was anger or sadness or something else. Maybe it was grief. Not for Mom. For the sister I thought I had. For the relationship I thought we could fix. I pulled another weed and another until my back hurt and the sun started to set. That night I looked at old photos. Me and Victoria as kids. Halloween costumes. Birthday cakes. Christmas mornings. We looked happy. Maybe we were. Or maybe I just remembered it wrong. Maybe the cracks were always there, and I was too young to see them. A year after the sale, I got a message from Victoria. It was short. She said she was sorry. She said she had been scared after Mom died. Scared of losing everything. Scared of not being enough. She said she handled it badly. She said she hoped I was doing okay. I read it 3 times. I did not respond. Not because I did not forgive her. I did mostly. But because some things do not need to be said out loud. Some distances are better left alone. I sold the lot 6 months later. Not to a developer. To a young couple who wanted to build a small house. They were kind. They brought me cookies when they introduced themselves. They said they loved the neighborhood. I sold it to them for the same price I paid Mr. Patterson. No profit, just peace. Victoria never knew. I did not tell her. It was not her business anymore. People ask if I regret how things went. I do not. I regret that it had to happen. I regret that my sister chose greed over honesty. But I do not regret protecting myself. I do not regret buying that lot. I do not regret refusing to disappear quietly. Some people think family means endless forgiveness. It does not. Family means showing up. It means honoring your word. It means not trying to erase someone because it is convenient. I stayed in the house for 3 more years. Then I sold it. Not because I had to. Because I wanted to. I had proven my point. I had protected what was mine. But holding on to it started to feel like holding on to anger. So I let it go. I bought a smaller place across town. Something new. Something without ghosts. The couple who bought the house sent me a thank you card. They said they could feel the love in the walls. I cried when I read that. Not sad tears. Grateful ones. I ran into Victoria at a coffee shop last month. It was awkward. We both hesitated. Then she walked over. She asked how I was. I said fine. She said she was engaged. I said congratulations. She showed me a picture of the ring. It was beautiful. We talked for 5 minutes. Normal things. Weather. Work. Nothing important. Then she said she had to go. I said okay. She started to leave. Then she stopped and turned around. She said she was glad I kept the house as long as I did. She said Mom would have wanted that. I nodded. She left. I sat there with my coffee, thinking about that moment. It was not closure. It was not reconciliation. It was just 2 people who used to be close acknowledging that they were not anymore. And that was okay. Not everything needs to be fixed. Some things just need to be accepted. If you are reading this and something feels familiar, if you have ever been erased or underestimated or told you do not matter, I want you to know you are not wrong for protecting yourself. You are not cruel for setting boundaries. You are not selfish for refusing to be small. People will call you dramatic. They will say you are overreacting. They will tell you family should forgive everything. Do not believe them. I did not burn bridges out of spite. I protected what was mine because nobody else would. I used the tools I had. I stayed quiet until quiet was not enough. Then I acted. And when it was over, I walked away with my dignity intact. That matters more than being liked. That matters more than being easy. I loved my sister. Part of me still does. But love does not mean letting someone hurt you. It does not mean staying silent while they rewrite your life. I want to hear from you. Did I do the right thing or did I take it too far? Drop a comment and tell me where you are listening from. Have you ever had to stand up to family? Have you ever bought something just to prove a point? Share your story. Maybe it will help someone else realize they're not alone. We tell stories like this every day. Real people, real decisions, real consequences. If this resonated with you, subscribe and stay with us. Because the truth is, you do not have to accept the role someone else writes for you. You can rewrite it yourself. And sometimes the quietest move is the most powerful one. You are not alone. You never were.